Am I getting too old for this? It's a question that you may or may not have asked yourself already, but sooner or later, you will. So in this video, I want to talk about why endurance sports and endurance cycling specifically really has no upper age limit. And I'm going to give you some proof too. It's looking pretty nice out, so let's go for a ride and get into it.
If my grey beard didn't already give it away, I'm past my physical prime. Depending on where you read and who you speak to, that's anywhere from your late teens to your early 30s. I just turned, the last few weeks, 40 years old. I know some of you watching this probably be yelling at your screen. Only 40? It's not that old really in endurance terms. I was talking to a good mate recently at a barbecue about a disappointing result this summer, and his answer was, yeah, but we're 40 now, so you have to get used to that. My reaction was very much, absolutely not, I'm not letting that happen. Even with that being said, it's pretty tough to go from your 30s to your 40s, or 40s to 50s, whatever, and for this stuff to not cross your mind a little bit. So that's why this has been on my mind recently. I'm not getting any younger. I love riding my bike, I love riding it all day. And there are some physical drawbacks to getting older, but there are ways to circumvent pretty much all of them. So as we go through this, if there's any that you think of I haven't covered, then put them in the comments, please. And if you're new to the channel, I'm Andy. I'm an ultra cyclist on the south coast of England. I make videos about ultra training, kit and adventures. So subscribe and join us. For me personally, that theoretical physical prime is very much theoretical. I spent those years pretty much with complete disregard for my health and fitness. And I started this journey in my mid-30s and started very much from the bottom. If you did a lot of sport growing up, then chances are you'll take to this pretty well, but it really is never too late to start this sport or just to move toward ultra distances. Well, it might be gorgeous and sunny, but man is it windy. I feel like in the UK for cycling, we've been a bit shortchanged this year. This summer's been rarely sunny, but always windy and always wet. Bring on 2025. I've been battling that headwind all the way here, and I'm out trying to have a shorter, easier ride today. Since TCR, I'm just not recovering physically. My Whoop has been in the green once. It's permanently in the yellow or in the red. For some reason, just not physically recovering. So I think I need a bit more rest. It's really useful though to look back at a log of recovery scores and say, yeah, that's not right. I know I've not been full of beans for a little while, but yeah, just not quite recovering. So I'm gonna make some time. As much as I don't want to, I hate resting. I hate sitting around. But I think right now I need it. Or I should now have a tailwind all the way home, so that's good. Anyway, there are some things you gotta really factor in, and you may already know, you may know more than me. But once you get past that peak, past 40, things start to happen to your body that you gotta really account for. To do this as well as possible, as healthily as possible, for as long as possible, there are some things you just gotta work on. Muscle mass starts to drop, so that's quite helpful in terms of power to weight, but then could start to create imbalances and weaknesses in places. You don't want that. For me, I think working on strength is going to be essential from now on. Should have been doing it anyway, really. Naturally, around this age, bone density starts to drop, bones start to weaken, and we're already at risk of that. Pretty much all I do is cycling. I do some long walks, but nothing really that's going to benefit my bones to strengthen them density-wise. So that's a consideration. Don't really want to be getting to my later years, have a fall, and then break my hip or something because I didn't plan ahead for that. And I'm only going to make it worse myself, sat on a bike all day. And on top of that, another consideration is testosterone. That's going to naturally drop year on year, roughly around 1% a year, I believe. For me, it's not an issue yet. It might be later, but there's some natural indicators to watch out for that might be becoming an issue. And if it does drop, that can have a majorly detrimental effect to physical performance. Like I say, I'm not an expert in that. If you know the channel Mark Lewis, then he's a really good resource for that. I know he's had a battle with low testosterone and managed to rectify it. So that's something to be aware of. And one thing I'm personally noticing is that middle-age spread just gets a bit harder every year to keep down. So what I don't really want is to head in that direction in general. A little bit more of a middle-age spread, testosterone dropping, muscle mass dropping. That's the wrong direction for me. So I'm not bringing all this up to scare people or, bring the mood down. But these are all things that will happen to some degree to all of us. Although, guys mostly on the testosterone front. There are some positives though. You start to see a trade-off where that upper end, high-end power, the sprint power, diminishes and drops away. But able to push much longer in endurance zones. The body becomes much better at metabolizing fats, its own fats. It just becomes easier to slip into that state and tap into your own fuel supply. Not that that should be our primary fuel source, but it's very useful in terms of endurance and becomes much easier once we get older. Okay, I was wrong. More headwind for me. This is crazy. I mentioned earlier proof that there's no upper age limit, and it comes in the form of a kind of a case study. Someone I saw at the Transcontinental race, there was a rider by the name of Norman Lomax, who was the oldest competitor in the field. Just under 68 years old, and he finished the race. More than half of the field didn't. He's almost up my age, and I believe by the time he got to Turkey he only had 2 gears, so I think he had a bit of a struggle with mechanicals and issues. Still finished, so that's pretty exciting to me. I could still be doing this if I put the right measures in place and change my training a little bit to account for those factors 30 years from now. I could still be riding the Transcontinental and similar races. And I think we can all agree that it wouldn't take that many years preparation to be ready for the TCR, so that's the way I see it. There really is no operation limit. You could start in your 60s, train, and get through that race. I don't see why not. So those are just a few things that I've come across, things I'm aware of, things I need to factor in future. But if you're watching this and you know others, or you've had to deal with other issues, let us know what you've had to deal with, how you dealt with it. I'd be interested to see that, and we'll help everyone prepare for that kind of stuff as and when it might arise. And if you're watching this and you're in your teens or early 20s, you can file this one away, come back to it in a few years. And I think that's gonna just about do it for this video. I'm gonna go away, work out how to factor that stuff into my training over this winter. So if you're not already subscribed, then subscribe and we can see how it pans out for next year. I didn't have any exciting destinations this week. I just wanted to keep the legs turning and try to recover a bit. So let's see what happens next week. I really wanted to ride a Century and test the knee, but it's not worth it this week. So have a good week. I'll see you on the next one. See what happens next week.